Bro, that, no wonder you have to change pads. He said, well, it was making some noise. Yeah, no duh. What is up, everybody in YouTube land? Here's another DIY video today. This is on a 2015 Subaru Outback. As you can see, this is the Outback. I didn't know if it was like the XT or whatever. It's just an Outback. I am doing brake pads on the front, pads and rotors on the back. So this is actually a really easy job. I'll show you what you need. First thing you want to do, obviously, some way to get up in the air. What I'm doing is I'm using my jack and my jack pad. Video will pop up about this. What this does is it goes on the frame, factory jack point, to make that fit that way you don't crush your jack points. One jack stand, it'll go on the subframe. You'll see it. Four-way to get the wheel off, and then it is a 14 millimeter. I'm using my air ratchet and that one. A flathead to help get the pads loose. These pads aren't that bad, but they're making a bunch of noise. I've already done the passenger side. If you look here, you can see they've got like some grooves in them, and they're chipping really bad. They're really loud. And whoever did it before me RTV'd the pads to the caliper. So I don't know what they were thinking. So let's get this up in the air and get started. Okay, so I've got it up in the air and got the wheel off. Like I said, I went to the factory jack point, which is right here. You can see where this like slot of non-protected is. And I use my jack pad on my jack, that way I don't crunch it. Got a jack stand there. I went to this subframe. They're not, if you don't have a four-way and you're using a socket, it's a 19. For some reason this had one American on it, one standard. But then if you're just doing pads, it's these two 14s, one right there, one right there. If you're doing rotors, to pull the whole assembly, it'll be right there. Those look like they're like 17s or 19s. Like I said, I'm not doing rotors on the front, but the back needs rotors badly. So I'm going to break them loose like such. These aren't actually that bad. And then once I get them broke loose, I'll switch over to my air ratchet, and then we'll go from there. One bit of advice, I should have told you this to begin with. This has the factory Subaru locks on it, which is the same thing as basically my Infiniti or Honda or anything. They're made by Magard. I do not recommend using air impact on these because I've seen them break here, or the teeth break off in the lug nut, and then you've got to drill the lug nut off. So take these off by hand. I recommend taking these off by hand. Take the security keys off by hand. So now I'll get these out and we'll get the pads out. Okay, so like I said, you've got two bolts here. What I ran into was this one. It's taking loose, it started spinning, so I just grabbed a pair of needle nose. You can see it's got like a bolt head on it. You can hold it while you take the bolt out. Okay. Set your caliper up here so it doesn't fall. Do not let it hang or kink that line. Take your flathead. If you see it's got a little groove, a little like pocket right here, and you can just work your way up. Okay. Okay. Like I said, these aren't, in terms of depth, they're not that bad, but they're like wearing really rough. Like there's grooves in them, and in the middle it's really rough. And he said it was just making a lot of noise. Something else I noticed here is that they have these weird, I guess these are the screamer bars. That's the screamer bar, but I don't know what these pins are. And they go in here, and they were really hard to get in on the other side. I don't know how hard they'll be to get in on this side. There's pads. So, screamer bar normally, sorry, that's your screamer bar. It normally goes on the inside. So, if you see it's got this little tab, goes in right there. Now, something else you might run into is these pieces get deformed as they heat. If you buy brake pads, they normally come with them. But what I do is just push this in right here, and then it will go in, and then you just push. As you can see what I'm saying, it's a little deformed right there. So I'm going to have to get my flathead. Sorry. Okay. So like I said, I'm sorry guys, it's hard to hold this and work with both hands. Push that little clip in, it goes in. This goes in, and as you can see, this is like bent, so what I'm having to do is just take my flathead and pop it out, and then you can just, boom, it's in. Now the inside's the same way. It's got this little retaining clip, and it's like, I don't know, it goes in the same way. But that dust shield, the new brakes do come with them, but it's a pain to change them, I feel like. So, I'm gonna fight and get this in there, but just get this little clip in there and it'll be good. I know that's a really crappy thing. Outside's easy, inside sucks, because you've got to get this like that in there. It's just a little retaining spring is all it is. It just literally like will bend in like that. And when you push it in, it goes in. But the problem is this metal right here gets deformed. Like I said, it does come with new ones. You can replace them if you want to. I normally don't, because they're just like guides. So I'm gonna fight and get that in there, and then I'll show you. So the trick to this is to start the top, go in like an angle, and you'll catch that clip, this little groove on the inside, and when it goes in, the bottom should just, you'll hear it snap in. So those are done. So now what you have to do is you have to take some way to compress these pistons. Okay, this is a dual piston, so you could do this with a C-clamp, an old brake pad, and a C-clamp on each side, or you can buy the specific tool like this one, or they make us like a solid metal one from Harbor Freight. It just goes in like such. This one goes in and goes across both of them, as you can see, and it just ratchets in. It's hard to do this, and okay, so it ratchets both pistons in at the same time. This is what's a dual piston, not a four piston, since it's only got pistons on the inside. Okay, and then what else I'm going to do is I'm going to check these. Because the other side, I'm going to put a little bit of grease on this bottom one. What do I do with my grease? Because on the other side, a little bit more grease on them. Because on the other side, the bottom one was seized up. And if you've seen my Mustang video, why the Mustang didn't stop, you'll see what no grease does. So what I'm doing, just a little bit of grease. I'll put some on the top one too. What I normally do is put them, just kind of gob it on. And I put it in the caliper. Put it in the bracket. I'll give it a twist. That way kind of spread it out a little bit. Okay? And then make sure if you do this, it goes back over that little ring. Make sure you get it over that little ring. Okay? Give it a twist. Okay? Pull the top one out. This one's not as bad, but I'm still going to put a little bit on it. Also, I'm going to say this, these little packs used to have like 3 times this much grease in them. And you could do like a whole car with one of these, but now I feel like you've got to get 2 of them to do a car. Put a little bit on, spread it out. Put a little bit on, spread it out. It kind of went heavy there. But like I said, put it in. As it goes in, you can like spread it around, and then make sure you get it over that lip. Give it a little spin. Looks good. Take your caliper, put it back over it. Take your bolts. I call them guide bolts. They're guide pins, whatever you want to call them. Okay, get one started. Get the next one started. If you're finding it's hard to get them to line up, you can push these guide pins in and out to move it. Okay, got them started. Now I'll take my air ratchet. If you don't have an air ratchet, you can use a regular one, a cordless one, whatever. I've just got this. Okay. Okay, and then once I get done with that, I'm gonna take my hand ratchet and snug them down by hand. Okay, like I said, take your front one, your hand one, give it a couple little extra oomph. Okay, I know somebody's already harping, why aren't you torquing those? It's up to you. If you want to torque them, that's fine. You can Google the torque specs, okay? That's done. Okay, fronts are done. I just did that in like a half hour. And like I said, it's 2 extra bolts if you want to take these off. Those are 17s or 19s, I'm not sure. But I'm gonna go ahead and do rotors on the back. The front rotors aren't, they're a little grooved, but like I said, I think it's because of the pads. But I'm gonna stick this wheel back on, move to the back, and I'm also gonna show you how to do the rears on this. So what I'll do is I will drop like timestamps in the comments or down in the description that says front pads, rear rotors. That way you can go to where you need to in this video. Okay, so I got the pads on, got everything snugged down, put the wheel back on, tightened it down as high as I could in the air. Now I'm going to take my 4-way here, tighten them all down back on the ground. If you want to torque them, you can. But I always say go as comfortable as you feel, because you don't want to go tighter than needed, because you don't want to go like crazy tight, because then if you have a flat, you can't get it loose. And what's weird, like I said, is this car has that lug nut right there is standard. So I'd say it went to a shop that ran one off and just, here, stick that on there, it fits. Okay, so fronts are done. It's, like I said, like a 30-minute job. So now we're gonna move around to the back. I'm gonna grab my other jack stand, because I'm hoping that I can go to back here and grab the rear diff, jack it up and put it up, both sides up in the air at the same time. Go ahead and jerk both wheels off and be done. So it's like an hour and a half job total. I can't imagine what a dealer or a shop would charge to do this. Okay, so they had told me that they had trouble getting this wheel off before. As you can tell, 2 of the studs are broke. In order to get the other 3 off, I had to take my breaker bar, a socket, and that piece of pipe. So I was like up here, as you can see, like prying with it, and I was afraid I was gonna break it, but it come loose. But what I've done, went to the center diff, and I've put those jack stands, as you can see, on the rear cross member. It fits perfect. So now I'll take the wheel off, get the pads off, get the rotors out, and we'll go from there. Okay, so when I first took this apart, I was like, oh crap, it's got an electronic e-brake. I'm not gonna be able to do this. I don't have the right tools. I don't want to break this, take a chance on it, whatever. But this is really easy once I figured out how to do it. So this is your electronic e-brake. It goes, there's a gear right there, it goes on it. It is held on by 2 5mm Allen keys, okay? Take those loose, and you take your flathead between the pad and the rotor. And as you push, you guys can see this. Just get your glove or a rag and turn that's clockwise, and push with the, as you're pushing, you'll feel it compressing. Okay, and once it stops, boom. Now do this before you take the caliper and the rotor loose. That way you can do it, like I said, you can literally take your flathead, put it right here, and pry between the rotor and the pad, and use the pad to push that back in as you twist. It's super simple. You can do it electronically, and then once you put it back together, I've got a little bit of grease I'm gonna put on there just to be safe. So this is a learning experience for me. I've never worked on a Subaru this new, or one with an electronic e-brake. I don't know how this little pad comes out, like the slider. I don't know if I'm afraid I'm gonna break this. Like, do you pry it open? What? So I'm replacing the rotor anyways. I'm gonna take, this is a 14 right here, right there. And there's a 14 right there. And that'll take the whole bracket loose. So that will allow me to do everything. I'm gonna figure out how to get just this off, that way in case you're doing just pads. But for right now, I'm taking these 2 14s off because I gotta replace the rotor too. Okay, 2 things, everybody. Whoever put these pads on for me has literally, that's RTV. They have RTV'd these, they did the fronts too. Second of all, bro, that, no wonder you have to change pads. He said, well, it was making some noise. Yeah, no, duh. Like, do not let your pads get that bad. That's what these screamer bars are for. Your screamer bar, you see how it's gone? Calipers off, pads are out. Rotor was stuck, so I took my good friend the dead blow mallet and was just tapping it, spinning it, tapping it. Come off. It's bad, guys. it is, I don't know if you can see that, but it is, a Braille person could read that. It's like a well-worn record. So now, take this guy, big brand new one here. Yep. Oh man. Take this big guy here. The installation is as simple as I'm glad I got them with the rust shield. Now what I'm going to do is take a little bit of brake clean, because it does have some oil on it, wipe it off, and also get my dusty handprints off of it. Ew. Rear pads obviously have an inner and an outer. What is the inner has this little spring on it. The way that works, it's very easy to figure out. You literally just, it has these little ears that goes in the caliper. Okay, I know you can't see that, but it has these little ears. So what you do is you lay it in there like this, and you just push it, and that will compress that spring. And as you push it, it will, you may have to work it back and forth, but you just push it up. Well, I had it in there and then I took it out to show you. So as you push it up, it will just go then in there. So you just push up right here, it'll compress that, and you'll see it will just go right down in there. Inside's got the screamer bar, remember? And then the outer pad does not have the spring, so you literally just push it in, and then you can take your flathead very gently, don't stab at it, and just guide it up in there like such. And if you don't get it perfectly flush, another trick you can do is just whenever you put it in, put it over the rotor, it will make it go whoop. As you push it in, it will make it flatten out. So I'm going to clean this off, put that back on, and then I got to remember to re-grease that. But this is very easy. It looks complicated. You don't have to worry about taking all this crap loose. Just take the whole caliper bracket assembly loose. It'll be the easiest thing. Just a small snag. I don't know if you can see it, but the pad is bigger right there than the opening. So I'm going to have to take my grinder or a file and notch it right there a little bit to get it go past, and then just put it on. It's a problem with aftermarket pads. Sometimes you'll run into tolerance issues, like it'll have too much paint or whatever on it, but it's easy fix. Okay, everybody. So if you look at these outside pads, see how they have this like little horn on them right there? Well, on the aftermarket pads, that is way too thick. And I literally had to cut, as you can see, cut this part off to get it to fit in there. And I know somebody's gonna say, oh, well, that's the outside pad, blah, blah. The other pad that goes in there won't fit because it has the screamer bar, and the screamer bar won't fit in here. It has to fit out here. So I literally had to cut this. So just be careful, pay attention. I've had a little bit of extra paint on there, but nothing like this, where I had to actually like cut it because it was so overly thick, and it still just barely fit right there. But just be mindful. I had to take a cut-off wheel and modify it a little bit, but now it's ready to go back on. So I got my two 14s back on there. Get ready to put the electronic brake on. Like I said, I'm gonna take a little bit of grease, just a little dollop, and just wipe around this. Make sure it's good and lubed. And then what else I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit, just go around this O-ring, make sure it seats. This is wheel bearing grease. I don't know what kind of grease this is supposed to take, but this is multi-purpose extreme pressure wheel bearing and chassis grease. So I mean, it should, I don't see why this would not work or why it would mess anything up. So then you just literally take this, put it back like such. Take your two 5mm or 5 Allen keys. I got lucky. I bought this awesome gear wrench set that has all this in there, so I literally just went and got it. Got my ratchet. Once again, I do not recommend using air tools for this because these are in plastic. There's a plastic housing. You could crack it. It says the torque on these is like 5.9, so that's 6 foot-pounds. I will torque them whenever I get done. Okay, there's that. There's that. And I'm not going to put the wheel back on yet. I'm going to wait till I get down to the other side to put the wheel back on. That way I can just zip them on, zip them on, zip them on. Hopefully I don't have to do as much trimming to the other side. I tried both sets of pads. I tried all combinations, all 4, and they all were doing the same thing, so I bet I will. I've run into that before with aftermarket pads where they've got like too much coating because they put like an anti-rust coating on them or whatever, and it literally makes them too big. Sometimes you can just file it off, whatever. That one had way too much, so I literally had to trim it. Like I said, there's a piece of it I had to cut off. The problem is right here is too big compared to the old one. If you look, the old one is, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's actually humped up compared to the old one. So just, what I did was I actually just diagonal it right there, because you'll still have the bottom holding it. So if you run into that problem, that's what you do. I just took a cut-off wheel and literally cut it diagonal right there. But now we'll go over to the other side, get the rotor off. Hopefully those pads aren't this bad. Bro,